businesswoman with over 10 years' experience in the healthcare sector locally and internationally. Phindile Yende aims to make a difference in the lives of young girls in South Africa and Malawi, where period poverty is prevalent. She joins us now to tell us more about her work. Phindile Yende, a warm welcome to you and welcome to the Weekend Report. Thank you so much for coming into our studios.
Good morning, Douglas, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, so, you know, we actually just had a very insightful conversation about getting women into the workforce. And it just so happens that you are a woman in business and have been doing so for so long, 10 years experience. Talk to us about that kind of transformative power and what it means for social change.
It's actually been such a great honor to actually find myself being in this position now. It's been through hard work, and it's been through maintaining good relationships and just also being a person who's passionate as well about not only empowering myself but empowering women as well and the youth. And being as well in the manufacturing industry, obviously a male-dominated industry, one actually had to really put in the effort to make sure that they actually manage to stay in this industry.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not just the grace and the looks, it's the hard work, it's what you put into it.
Absolutely. And not only that, I mean, I always call myself a social entrepreneur. And I call myself a social entrepreneur because it's not about just making profit. It's also about the impact that you actually have on the communities, especially disadvantaged communities, because that's who I mostly work with. And I've been privileged enough to be working with a lot of government departments. Like, for instance, right now I'm doing a project in which I'm impacting the youth, where we're imparting skills in clothing and textile manufacturing.
We're going to circle back to some of the sort of social change and the work that you're doing that is affecting and impacting communities across South Africa and Malawi. But you are also a woman who wears so many hats. Not only are you the successful businesswoman, successful entrepreneur, you're also a mother. You have founded a 100% black female-owned company, Ruyo and Rui, that has, you know, operations in all sorts of sectors, primarily in the medical healthcare sector. Talk to us about the founding of that company. Where did the idea come from? You know, what was the inception behind it?
You know, I got inspiration when once I worked for a German multinational company, and I got the opportunity to actually visit the manufacturing site in Germany, and I was just blown away. And I thought to myself that if this can be done here in Germany, it can also be done in South Africa.
Of course.
So that's where I actually got the inspiration. And obviously raising two little boys, I also thought to myself that, you know what, I wanted to do something that will allow me to leave a legacy for them. And being passionate as well about the reindustrialization of South Africa, I thought to myself that there aren't many women in this sector, and there aren't many women who are actually passionate about reindustrialization. And that's actually where we can actually create jobs. Because
when you say reindustrialization, what do you mean by that? Just take us through that. Yeah.
South Africa somehow lost its footing when it came to manufacturing, right? Hence, the president is also putting so much effort into manufacturing, because that's where we can actually be able to create jobs. Most of the clothing that we actually get now in South Africa, it's imported, whereas we can actually manufacture these clothing here in South Africa. Even retailers, your big retailers, they're getting their clothing from China, from India, all these other countries, whereas we can actually start manufacturing them here at home and create jobs for our people.
So locally made products for South African locals. And you're saying that this is not a project that should only be for government. It shouldn't just be a passion project for government, but businesses alike should also be involved. Your business, in fact, is one that is quite passionate about this the concept of reindustrialization. So just take us through how you are embodying that and how you're trying to make that happen in this country.
I work a lot with cooperatives in different provinces, and these cooperatives are actually female-owned. So because I'm somebody who already has experience in manufacturing, I then impart different skills to these co-ops, whereas they then call in a lot of young people, especially women, so they can actually have the skill in sewing. So at this current moment, we also work with agents who work with the likes of Pick and Pay and the likes of Ackermans, where we can actually manufacture these clothing for them. However, there are challenges in this industry because there's a lot of red tape, especially when you're working with, especially when you want to work with retailers. There's a lot of things that you need to meet before you can actually work directly with them, which somehow short sells us, especially as black manufacturers, because there's a lot of things that we are still learning, and government itself is still learning in how to actually re-industrialize this country, and hence they need us as well to do the best that we can to actually help them to make this concept actually work.
With all of your accomplishments and your incredible ideas on how you can fast-track growth in a lot of these sectors that are in desperate need of economic growth, I mean, when you walk into a room as a black woman who owns her own company, who has these grand ideas, what's that reception like? Is it often, you know, warm and welcoming and inviting and eager to hear what you have to say? Or, like, sadly, what we've heard a lot of the times, it is quite a struggle, it is quite a challenge having to put your ideas forward, having to break through some of those barriers and that glass ceiling?
It is quite a challenge. I mean, I got the opportunity to go and study business entrepreneurship in Atlanta. And there I realized how easy it is to actually say, I've got an idea, this is what I want to do, and I need somebody to assist me, because that's why I actually got my first funding to actually start this manufacturing company. But then when you come back home and then you say, this is what I actually want to do, my gosh, it's not easy at all, and you'll get empty promises as well, and there's just so much red tape. So if things were made easier for us, I think it would be easier to actually grow this industry even further.
Well, then what drives you? If it's so challenging, if there's so much red tape, if the mountain hill is more of like a mountain than anything else, what drives you? What keeps you going?
I think it's the impact that I've seen with the little that I've done, because I really feel that I haven't done as much as I would like to do as yet, because obviously my dream is to have many industrial sites all over the country. But my industrial site is based in Krugersdorp, but with the co-ops and the woman that I'm working with, and seeing the impact it has, and just them having that skill and knowing that at the end of the day, this woman has the skill and they'll be able to actually put bread on the table for their family. I think that's what keeps me going, and say, you know what, it doesn't matter how small it is causing some form of impact in our community.
So it's the pouring back into the community.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. Well, I want to talk about your books, because not only are you this prolific and successful businesswoman, you're also an author.
Yes.
You know, so we weren't joking when you said you wear many hats. But you've authored 2 books, and one is more of a personal account, talking about a marriage built on lies. Why did you feel it necessary to get these stories out to the public, and more specifically this personal account of your own sort of lived experience? Why was it so important to have that story out for people?
I think it goes back to me wanting to empower women, you know, because I always feel that much as we want to climb the corporate ladder, much as we want to be these big businesswomen, if your life is affected personally, it affects a whole lot of other things around you, right? So for me, sharing my personal story, it's to actually say that if I'm managed to go through this as a woman and able to be where I am right now, it is also possible for you. So for me, sharing my story is for another woman to say you are not alone in whatever it is that you're going through, and you'll be able to also come out of it.
And what has the reception been like?
It's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's really been phenomenal, because in the books that I've written, I totally bare myself naked so that people can actually see Phindi not just as a businesswoman, but Phindi the mother, Phindi the woman who's been through a terrible divorce and a terrible marriage, Phindi who got out of it and she came out of it strong. So a lot of women are actually reaching out to me, especially on social media, where they're like, wow, Phindi, I'm seeing myself in what you've gone through, and it's beautiful to actually see that you've come out of it, meaning that I can also come out of it.
I mean, everything about you is infinite, in the sense that there's so many layers. I think we could sit on these couches for a good 30 minutes more, just unpacking everything that you've gone through. But you're also a mother, you know, of 2, and you have these businesses, you've authored these books, you're doing so much for your community, but you're also pouring a lot of yourself into these 2 young children. I think for a lot of women who are probably watching this conversation, they are wondering, how on earth is she doing it? our age group is getting married later, you know, we're starting families later. We have so many options. We're doing things very differently to our mothers. But I think the key challenge right now is how do I balance it all? So that's the question that I want to ask you as we wrap up the conversation. I mean, how do you balance it all? And what would be that token of advice that you give to women watching?
Well, firstly, I've got a great support structure. I mean, I've got parents who are very involved in my life and my children's lives. So when I'm traveling, I know that mom and dad are there to actually assist me with my children. And as well, I've got good friends as well who keep encouraging me, who are just as motivated and who want to do great things the way I want to do. So it's the people that surround me that actually keep me going. And even with my time, I actually feel that we've got so much time. It's just how we use that time. You know, so I'm very focused in everything that I do. I'm very intentional and deliberate in how I actually do that thing and how I use my time. So we have time and we can actually strike a balance, but as well, I also believe that nobody's a perfectionist. So I'm not the type of person where I want everything to be perfect. I just do the best that I can do to achieve what I want to do.
Absolutely. Wells of wisdom. Thank you so much, Phindile, for joining us this morning and for sharing your story with us and our viewers. That's author and businesswoman Phindile Yende.